Schumer just a few hours ago, calling for an investigation into the bombshell report from The Atlantic about leaked war plans. The editor-in-chief of The Atlantic says he was, quote, accidentally included in a group text where the top administration officials discussed highly sensitive information about U.S. military strikes in Yemen. And again, these aren't just any Trump officials. We're talking about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Vice President J.D. Vance, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, all reportedly using non-government encrypted chat apps talking about classified information. I want to bring in Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, who serves on the Senate Judiciary and Foreign Relations Committees. Senator, you have posted and put out a statement about this. The revelation itself, what does it tell you about this administration?
Phil, if true, these allegations are just shocking. The idea that the Secretary of Defense shared detailed, highly classified war plans for exactly what munitions were going to be dropped on what targets at what times could have put American service members at risk, violate some of the most basic standards for sharing highly classified military operational data, and calls for an immediate oversight hearing and investigation. I believe there's going to be a hearing on the Intelligence Committee publicly tomorrow, where I expect this will be looked into in detail, and I'm working with colleagues right now on a follow-up letter that will demand oversight hearings and accountability for these actions.
Yeah, there was already a scheduled global threats hearing where at least two of the people in this chat, the CIA director and the director of national intelligence, are scheduled to appear, first in the Senate tomorrow, then in the House on Wednesday. I think a lot of us have been wondering how Republicans are going to respond to this. Typically very quick to defend the administration on just about anything. My colleague Manu Raju just caught up with House Speaker Mike Johnson. I want you to take a listen to what he said.
Clearly, I think the administration has acknowledged it was a mistake, and they'll tighten up and make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't know what else you can say about that.
Has the administration acknowledged the mistake here, and what do you expect the consequences will be?
I don't know if they've acknowledged this mistake. My understanding from a brief press conference I heard while I was traveling down to D.C. today was that President Trump was trying to say he'd never heard of The Atlantic and didn't think it was well read and didn't have any particular comment. Next, I expect him to begin saying he's never heard of Secretary Hegseth. Look, I've been to surprise birthday parties that had better security than this attack on the Houthis by the Trump administration. It's an alarming breach of how we deal with highly classified information. And it's got to lead to a deeper question about how the senior team in this administration, in this White House, is sharing information. I'll remind you, Phil, the thing Americans have been most concerned about, at least that I've gotten the most calls about in the last month, is how Elon Musk and his Doge team got into the information of every American about their tax returns, about their filings, about their financial data. So if they're this loose and this casual with something as highly classified as the plans for an imminent military attack, how can we trust Elon Musk and his Doge team with handling or having any access to highly classified, personally identifying information that every American expects will be kept secret? That's why a federal judge has ordered Elon Musk and the Doge team to have no further access and to not take any inappropriate use of that information that they got from the Treasury Department.
Right. I mean, I think the question right now, though, is there will obviously be public hearings that were already scheduled with some of these people. You talk about how you're working with colleagues about a letter, and I'm not minimizing or diminishing the act of U.S. senators getting together and signing a letter. But what actually creates some type of oversight or investigative hearing into this? You don't control the Senate. Your colleagues don't control the House. What's the trigger here?
Phil, we need Republicans to step up and take responsibility for oversight. Our framers understood that there was a separation of powers, that senators and House members would take on the responsibilities of their body, and when an administration, even of their own party, made a fundamental mistake like this, that they would act, that they would get into the details, and that they would demand some accountability. As we are in the minority, there's limits to what we can do to compel full committee hearings. But we will work at it. We will press for it. We will demand action both publicly and privately. And frankly, this is just the latest in a series of actions by Elon Musk, by President Trump, by some of his senior leaders that make the average American lose faith in their ability to handle classified information competently.
Senator, you're one of those rare species on Capitol Hill where you actually talk to members of the opposite party. You're on committees that traditionally are bipartisan. What are they saying? I mean, look, I've talked to a lot of Republicans today who are dumbfounded by this report. None of them will go on the record and say as much.
That's right.
What are your colleagues telling you behind the scenes?
So we're all just returning now from a week back in our home states. The conversations I've had so far have been brief, and I'm looking forward to seeing a number of my colleagues in person right now when I head to the floor for a vote. And frankly, to see if we can't find some common purpose in investigating this alarming incident.
Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, always appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.